Coming up on the Amazing Art Show, Dale Chihuly glass sculptures. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Amazing Art Show. I'm your host, Angie Beam, and I'm super excited about our project today. We are going to be making some Dale Chihuly. Yes, I said Chihuly. That's like my favorite name to say. We're going to be making some Dale Chihuly like sculptures today, and he is a glass artist, and he does these amazing glass sculptures. And so, of course, we really can't work with glass. It's a very one of those hard mediums to work in. You need really all this crazy kind of equipment. It's super hot. You've got to blow in the glass and blow it up and all this other kind of stuff that we can't do. But what we can do is we can kind of simulate it. So this is what you're going to need to do your project today. Simple Shrinky Dinks is what we're going to be using today. And I got the clear kind. You can also, and I'll show you a little bit what the other ones look like. You can also do white, which is right here. Looks like this. It's still Shrinky Dinks, but they're just white. And they also even have some that are black. So, but the main ones that we're going to be working on, since we're trying to simulate that idea of glass, you want yours to be clear, like glass. And then also you're going to need some Sharpie markers, and you want to get lots of really good, nice, bright colors. You definitely want a black because you're going to need that to kind of do your outlining. And then I've talked about these before, and they're very hard to find, but if you were lucky enough to save some of these, this is like my private stash of these gel markers. These work really, really nice as well. All right, so let's get started. Let me show you really quick a little bit of Dale Chihuly's work. This is Dale Chihuly, and this is some of his glass sculptures. And he does these installations where they're up on the ceilings. And it was really crazy. I actually just went on a cruise not too long ago, and when we went into the dining area, they had all of these Dale Chihuly spherical kind of shapes that were up on the ceiling. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome, because I'd never really gotten to see them in person. So this is kind of what we're headed towards. And this one in particular is what I think ours kind of look most like. So if you look at the colors that you see, and there are lots of really bright colors, oranges, blues, yellows, greens. So we're really going for those primary bright kind of colors. Now I also have in my mix of markers, I've also got some fuchsia and some turquoise and things like that. But anything like really, really bright, but kind of want to stay away from browns a little bit. All right, so we're going to move this to the side. And as far as your pieces of Shrinky Dink, they look like this, like a sheet of paper basically, a little bit smaller. And you're going to need about 3 of these big, and then you'll need another one that you can kind of cut down into smaller pieces. So we'll talk about that in just a second. So think about patterns, line designs. In a lot of his work, he's got kind of a spiral design. You'll see, dots and stripes and things like that. So kind of get your mind thinking in that direction. And we can start out with, and you want to pretty much use all of your sheet, because the fun thing about Shrinky Dinks is that, you draw it and it's big, and then you're going to put it in the oven and it's going to shrink down smaller. So use all of your Shrinky Dink that you can. So I like to do, some kind of a circular-ish kind of shape. Definitely very organic looking. And then from here, you might want to do one that's solid, that you just make the pattern all over. Or if you wanted to, you could even kind of divide it. So I think I'm going to try one where I'm going to kind of do some spirals that shoot off and kind of divide it. All right, so I've got that area divided. I think I'll do one more. All right, now, in my areas, I want to make this really super colorful, and you want to do patterns within your areas. So let me think where I want to start. I think I like this color. Looks really good. All right, so I'm going to start in, and you can do any kind of a pattern that you want to do. And the good thing is that, normally I tell you to really take your time and do your best work and go slow and all that kind of good stuff that normally you need to do. This particular project, you can go pretty quick because when it shrinks down, you're not going to see a whole lot of those little details. So I'm going to keep adding in my shapes. And you want to kind of think about making your lines fairly thick because they show up really, really nice. And then whatever you decide to do, you're going to also need to come back in with a background color. So I'm going to do these. And then for my background color, I like how the yellow looks. So I'm going to come in with some yellow. Oh wait, I forgot to tell you something. And I already made the boo-boo. Turn this over. All right. It's okay. I can still roll with it like this though. But you turn yours over. So you'll have the black on one side, flip it, and then you're going to do the color on the other side. So you're going to just come in here. I did the same thing the other day. It really doesn't make a difference. The only thing that it changes if you don't flip it is that if you get the marker into where you've already made marks, it kind of erases it. So if you forget, it's no big deal. I did several, and I just was really careful when I was adding my color. And like I said, you know, you don't have to be super careful about your coloring because when it shrinks down, it gets so condensed that you don't see a lot of the little details. So for that reason, you know, you don't have to go crazy insane on details on this one. You just want some really nice patterns. Give it some interest. And you want to think about, you pretty much want your piece to be, since it's clear, you want to pretty much fill everything in with some color. But because it's clear, whenever we cook it, it'll still be transparent. You can still see through it. But it will just, it'll look like glass, like a colored piece of glass. All right, so I've got this filled in. And then, like I was saying, do something in all of your areas so that it ends up being pretty filled in. So I'm going to just come back and do some bigger dots in there. You can have some where it's just plain clear. All right, and then I think I'm going to go into here. I'm just going to add some color in here. And I was looking back at Dale Chihuly's work, and I was noticing that he does a lot of, it's kind of hard to explain. It's like the color is real intense and then it kind of fades out to a lighter color. So you might kind of think about doing, I'll show you with a pattern here. You might think about doing something like it's just kind of a zigzag pattern that starts out small and gets bigger and kind of fill some of your spaces that way. Looks really nice. This is a great project to work on with a lot of friends. It's lots of fun. It's not one of those that you have to concentrate so much that you can't, you know, kind of visit at the same time. Now, while we're kind of talking about this and we're working, you want to have mom or dad, because you're going to need their assistance for this a little bit. Have mom or dad, they're going to need to heat up the oven. And you can do it in like one of those little smaller oven, not like a toaster, but there's little toaster ovens that are smaller like this. Not the kind that you put the Pop-Tart in and you push the button and they go down. That will not work. Do not do that. But the smaller ones is what I use for mine. But I've done them in the big oven before. You can use either one. You want to put it on bake, and you're going to put it on 325. And usually what the instructions are on the Shrinky Dinks, it explains all of it to you, but it's going to tell you you'll put it in there and then you'll watch it for a couple minutes and you'll see it start to shrink. But with this project, you actually want to pull it out before it says to pull it out, because you're trying to kind of get them where they've shrunk a little bit and they're kind of moving and warping and changing shape a little bit. You want all of that, but you want to get it out before it gets super, super small. So that's where you're going to need mom's and dad's help. because they can kind of help you watch. So you could even have, you know, maybe have a couple of you kind of get together, and then while you're completing, you know, this part of it, the ink work, Mom and Dad can kind of start cooking and watching the other parts. And then I'll also tell you my other trick. I got a glass bowl, just a little glass bowl like that you'd put ice cream or something like that in. It was just like a little bowl about like this big. And whenever I would put it into the oven, I would lay my Shrinky Dink on top of it, and then as it melted, it would kind of melt down over the bowl. And so it kind of created the shape of Dale Chihuly's, where it's kind of a dome, kind of a circular shaped dome kind of a shape. And so, so that worked really, really well. And so you might want to consider doing something like that. But some of your pieces you'll probably want to leave, I can't decide what color I want. You'll probably want to leave some of them, just lay it down flat. That works okay too. And you know, sometimes I will say this, the Shrinky Dinks are incredibly unpredictable. They will, you'll kind of think you have a system down, and then you won't have a system down because it will turn and go a different direction. And I'll kind of show you some of my examples so you can see how they will just all kind of turn out different ways sometimes. All right, I'm just about finished with this one. I think I want some red in this one. Also, you could do kind of some, I'm going to do kind of a leopard print design, but I'm going to use red. And like I said, remember that this, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going really fast. Y'all have to, I'm sorry, I've had a really bad allergy attack, so I'm sniffly today. All right. Now, because this pattern is a little more open, meaning there's quite a bit in the background that's left open, you could go back in and put a color inside there if you would like to. I think I'm going to go in and maybe do something inside. So I think I'll do a little bit of the black. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to put it in a couple places. You can go crazy with these. The animal prints, I did a couple that some of my kids did some zebra and animal prints, and they looked awesome. I wasn't quite sure how they were going to turn out, but they really look nice. All right, now you could definitely go in and do a color in here if you would like to. I'm trying to decide if I want to do that or not. I think I'll just do just a little bit, just in a couple of the places. Now, I told you at the beginning that you were going to need to do 3 of these. So you've got, this is just one that we're working on now. And you'll need to do at least 2 more big ones. All right, so I'm done with this one. I'm going to move this one over. And next, I've got that smaller one that we talked about. And this one is, we're going to actually be cutting this one into strips. And so I'll show you kind of what that looks like here in a second. For this one, like super simple patterns, just something that's very linear, goes all the way down, just make some kind of a pattern. You're going to be cutting them into like about inch-long strips. I probably should have put a protective sheet of paper down because I'm making a little bit of a mess. All right, let's see. A couple of my kids also did on their strips, they said different words like peace and love and things like that. Some of them turned out really cute. All right, so there's that one. And then I'm going to do, let's see, on this one, I'm going to do, oh, this is that one. This one looks like it would be really good, but it's not. But I always think it's the good one. There we go. And then this is like the fastest and the messiest I think I've ever gone. All right. Now, you want to do about 5 strips. So I've only done 2, but you're going to want to do more than that because remember we usually like to keep things in odd numbers. So I've only done 2. Shame on my name. You need to do 5. So next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our scissors and we are going to cut along our line here. And you could, if you wanted to, do like a really nice black line because it really looks nice after you cook it. But I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a second. I'm just going to cut this down and it's very easy to cut. Just cut it down the middle. And I'll show you 2 different ways that you can do this and I'll show you kind of what they look like once you've cooked them. All right, so these I've left, this one is going to just be plain flat on both sides so it doesn't have a point or anything. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to trim it down a little bit so that it comes more into a point. And it's going to cut off a little bit of my pattern, but it's no big deal. Oh, well, that went flying across the room. Okay, so now I've got, this one is got a little point on it, and then this one is just plain. And then back over to your big one that you were working on. Last thing that looks really nice is if you can get a really big kind of thick marker, and this is, it's also a Sharpie, it's just a really big thick one, and do this in a well-ventilated place because on my lands it really stinks. Just kind of go back and really outline around this. It looks really, really nice after you have baked them. And sometimes it doesn't want to work on this plastic sometimes. And you don't have to do any of the inside lines, it's just the outside. And you know, you probably, if you could get some of these big Sharpie markers in colors, that'd probably look really good too. I have seen a couple of art teachers in the district that have been doing some Chihuly projects, and they are awesome. I really, really like them. Okay, so now that this is finished, I'm going to pull this up, and then, oh my goodness, that stinks. Phew! All right, I'm going to trim this. You do want, when you're cutting, I would say, you know, I told you that you don't have to be really super detailed. You should be very detailed on your cutting because that's going to show after you bake it. So take your time. You don't want any little jagged edges. You want everything to be really smooth. So if you might need mom or dad to kind of help you with cutting, that might be something y'all could do together. And I'm almost done. All right, so by now, hopefully, mom or dad's been baking while you've been busy creating. But if not, you're going to pop those in the oven, 325. It'll go really fast. You just have to watch them. And let me kind of show you what they'll kind of start to look like. The clear ones, for whatever strange reason, they did not curl up very much. I'm going to put a piece of paper down so you can see this. All right. They just kind of crinkled, which I thought turned out pretty cool. I liked them. And then, you know, when you're doing these and they look like glass, I thought they were awesome looking. I was really excited. They didn't really crinkle, all right? But I talked to you earlier in the show about on doing the white Shrinky Dinks, and this is what they look like. This is with the gel markers and the white Shrinky Dinks. And then the little pieces, they like all curled up, all kind of kinky curly. And so they turned out really nice. I like those a lot. But you have to watch them because they will completely coil up and they're like a little bugle bead. So you have to kind of watch them. You have to have mom and dad there to help you. Like when it starts moving, you're like, go now and get them out really quick because it happens super fast. All right, and then if you happen to get one that closes, mom or dad, if they're really brave and work fast and have callous fingers, they can kind of pull it apart a little bit if it gets too curly. All right, so that's kind of what those look like. And then your other pieces, they're going to kind of look like this. Now this is one that I had the bowl sitting down like here, like pretend my hand's a bowl, and then this was laying on top of it as it cooked. And then as it cooked, it kind of got that dome shape of the bowl, and the edges start to curl up. And you have to really watch it because, like I said, you don't want to let it stay in the whole time. You want to pull it out before. So this one you can see I've got all kinds of funky designs on there. And then let me show you my other ones. This one I think is my favorite. I just love the shape of it. It just turned out really awesome. It really reminds me of a Dale Chihuly. I think I did a pretty good job. This one, almost a perfect little bowl. That's another thing. If you don't want to do these sculptures, you can make like little candy dishes, all kinds of cool stuff for these. Jewelry in there. Mom would love this for Mother's Day. This would be awesome. All right, and then another one here. It's kind of hard to see the design on that one. All right, so you've now got all these pieces, and now you're like, well, that's great. What in the world am I supposed to do with it? So I'm going to put these to the side. And I didn't mention this to you in the beginning because some of you may have this and some of you may not. So I'm going to tell you kind of two different things that you might want to do. Recently, we had some tornadoes that came through my neighborhood. And so everybody has been throwing out old fencing. And so I kept driving by and I was looking at it, I was thinking, man, that'd be awesome to do something with. So I grabbed some huge bundles of it. So I've got tons of this. It's coming to school with me, so get ready. And if you would like to, you might want to do your sculptures on here, like, you know, you can kind of place them out. Or if you don't have that, you can also just glue them together. So, you know, you kind of come up with what you might like it to look like and kind of layer your pieces together and then just put some little dabs of glue that'll kind of hold everything in place. All right, and it's a sculpture. You could also do a little hook on the back, hot glue a little hook on there, and you could hang it on the wall and have this really awesome sculpture coming off your wall. So the only thing that you're going to need to do to glue them is just a hot glue gun. So once again, you're going to need mom and dad to kind of help you out on this one. And you just put a little dab of glue where you want it, and then you want to kind of make sure that you have a good place to put it. So, you know, balancing it right here on this very edge, probably not a great idea. It's better to try to find kind of like a solid area that where two places kind of meet together, and so you'll have two flat surfaces that are in a good, you know, enough space where they can kind of grab onto each other and hang on. So I'm going to do mine on the wood because I'm super excited about that. So I've got my piece of wood here. I had to get out my saw and cut it before I came over here. I had sawdust everywhere. All right, so for my pieces, I'm just going to kind of lay them out. And if you'll kind of think about if you were Dale Chihuly and you were doing an installation on a ceiling, you kind of want to layer them, so you don't want them all, you know, you don't want them all in a perfect little line like this. This is so not Dale Chihuly. We want to like really layer them and get lots of depth in your design. I think I want this one to be, I like this one so much I want it to be on top. And then just kind of arrange where you would like to put all of your pieces. So I think I'm going to go for something kind of like that. So now that I kind of have my plan, I'm going to kind of put it to the side. And then you're just going to do a big dollop of glue. And then lay that down into place. And it will be really, really hot. And it also, for whatever reason, the the plastic kind of holds the heat. So sometimes if you're gluing just the pieces together, you kind of have to hold it a little bit because it wants to kind of come apart. All right. Oh, I didn't get it in there. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one up here. There's something in this one. Okay. Now your little, kind of little crazy pieces that we have, the little spirally pieces, you can do those several different ways. You might want to, I think I'm changing my plan. I'm going to do this one down here. Sometimes you just go with plan B. All right, now your little bitty ones. You can do these, the little bitty ones can go, having to hold this a second, it's not wanting to stick. This is going up in my classroom. I'm so excited about it. Your little pieces, you could do them where they're sticking up, where they're kind of sticking out. Dave Chihuly has got these amazing, it's like a light, like a chandelier that comes down, and it's like these huge, you know, spirally kind of shapes that come down. And so they kind of reminded me of that, which kind of is what made me think about that idea. So those can go inside here, or you can even just do them, you know, where they're coming around on the outside. So it's kind of up to you to kind of get your pieces where you want them and get them glued in. So that is just about it. Let's go to today's quote. Glass is the most magical of all materials. It transmits lights in special ways. I'm pleased to say that my art appeals to so many people of all ages. So I am trying to figure out where I'm going to place my little small shapes. I don't know. I'm having a very hard time deciding. I've got some here. I was going to show you my shapes really quick. I've got some that are kind of, this one's kind of in a C shape. This one, like I said, it's like you never know what's going to happen, and they just kind of went their own way. And so the rest of them all kind of look the same. They're all kind of flat, but they're kind of bumpy. And so then all of a sudden this one came out, and I was like, what in the world happened there? But that's kind of the fun thing about it, is it's kind of unpredictable. And I usually don't like that. I usually, when I'm doing my art, I like to know what the outcome's going to be. But this was actually very fun, and just trying to kind of, you know, go with the flow on it. And I'm wondering, I have not tried it yet, but those of you that have crafty moms, I'm wondering if you could also do these with a heat gun. You know, if you've had one of those, that might kind of be an interesting thing to try. You could actually maybe even wrap it around different objects that would be heat proof, but you could probably turn this into all kinds of different shapes. I know I've seen people that have made rings and all kinds of things out of Shrinky Dink, so there's got to be a way to do it. I bet it's with the heat gun, if I had to imagine. All right, guys, that is just about all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining me for my Dale Chihuly sculptures. Now go out and make some amazing art.